What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Now, on this channel I do a lot of talking about books, and I do very little talking about bricks and boards. But the channel actually got its start talking mainly about board games. And today I'm going to kind of meld the two a little bit. I'm going to talk about my top 5 board games that provide an RPG experience. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 5, this is Massive Darkness 2, and it's not just a clever name. Clearly, the amount of content for this game is massive. Now, the things about Massive Darkness 2 that are what I would consider RPG elements are as follows. Number 1, classes with variable powers. Not as much as many games, but the class more or less gives some gimmicks to choose from, and then the equipment determines a lot of the effectiveness. Number 2, advancement opportunities unique to each class, which at later levels become a large departure from the base character. For example, the Tinkerer has cards that overlay his entire dashboard, representing an Iron Man-like power suit. Each class has its own gimmick in this vein. For example, the Rogue has a bag of tokens that provide programmable efficiency boosts, while the Druid has a set of different animals it can transform into. All of these feel fresh and interesting. 3, campaign play, which offers additional advancement options and slows down the traditional process. If you don't want multiple session campaign play, you can play in the standard mode, advancing through the entire hero build in each session. Best of both worlds. Now, who is it for? If you like Diablo on a table, you're going to like this. It is a dice chucker, and it has a lot of to do with advancement trees and finding some sweet loot. Now, who is it not for? If you want deep strategic choices or you abhor dice swings, then this is not for you. If you have played Zombicide and didn't like it, it's also not for you. Number 4. Cthulhu Death May Die. This game has several RPG elements, starting with number 1, the unique investigators. Each investigator has 3 powers, one which is completely unique to them. For example, Rasputin is able to die multiple times, accurately representing the legend of the historical Rasputin. While other investigators will have abilities that provide additional movement, combat abilities, or the opportunity to manipulate portals to other dimensions. Each investigator's dashboard card provides all the rules for all 4 levels of each of the 3 skills. 2, advancement is tied to sanity loss. Your characters will advance their skills only as they continue going further insane. This creates a real balance between wanting to advance, but realizing each advancement puts you a step closer to the end of the sanity track, which means game over. 3, the mythos is well represented, with several old ones available and a plethora of beasties from Lovecraft's demented mind. You will not be disappointed by the options. These all work in a modular fashion. By choosing a scenario and an old one, you get a different combined experience each time, with discovery cards, mythos cards, and enemies associated with the combination you choose. 4, the discovery cards really are what make the game work for me. If you have an investigator in an empty space at the end of a turn, they can draw from the discovery deck, getting a choice of 2 actions, which typically provide a cost and a benefit, such as finding a lab assistant companion, or maybe a monkey's paw. Since these are unique to the scenario, they provide interaction and context to the situation, and they often play off one another in interesting and fun ways. So who is it for? This game is great for people that enjoy over-the-top horror with a pulp vibe. Think Army of Darkness. And people that enjoy pressure luck mechanics are going to love this game. Who isn't it for? Well, Mythos traditionalists will probably not enjoy the premise that the whole game is based around summoning one of the old ones and then punching it in the face. For them, Mansions of Madness or a similar game is going to be a better option. 3, Bag a Dungeon. The RPG elements in this game involve 1, the unique characters in the vein of Gauntlet, with unique combat values, hit points, and special abilities. The differences may seem subtle at first glance, but having the ability to roll 3 dice instead of 2 in combat is huge in play. Heroes will often have restrictions on item use, such as the halfling not being able to use two-handed weapons, or the minotaur who can't use weapons, armor, shields, or boots. Ultimately, this leads to some real strategic choices in the game as far as who gets what loot. 2. Procedural dungeon and monster spawning. Through a series of tiles for dungeons and monsters, the game creates a random, unique experience each game. Tiles determine whether a monster will spawn, and the size of the monster will determine how many items it drops when defeated. Additionally, some tiles offer special effects like healing or fast travel. The goal in the first bag of dungeon is to beat the dragon and escape, whereas the second involves defeating an evil sorcerer and freeing the forest from his stranglehold. 3. There's limited PvP. With players being able to attack or help each other, or just idly stand by as a monster eats another hero's face, some groups will enjoy this competitive option, while others will focus solely on the cooperative. So who's it for? This game is going to be great if you want some mindless combat that fully replicates the feeling of the Tunnels and Trolls combat experience, without the death spiral. It's great to throw in a bag and take to a buddy's house or on a trip. Great bite-sized dungeon crawler. So who is it not for? People with low tolerance for unclear or clunky rules interactions, specifically action points in solo or co-op games, which really seem to serve no purpose due to a lack of a timer. Also, if you don't like Tunnels and Trolls combat, this isn't going to be for you. Number 2, Shadows of Brimstone. Shadows of Brimstone has the following RPG elements. Number 1, character creation, choosing from one of over 50 classes with separate card decks and advancement trees. When combined with the various effects and quests and town interactions and the limitless item combinations, not to mention mutations and insanities, the sky really is the limit as far as customization options, and the playstyle variations are best in class. Number 2, kill a monster and take its stuff gameplay at its absolute best. With monsters from European, Japanese, mythos, science fiction, and more, you won't be lacking for options of stuff to kill or loot to grab, particularly some of the large monsters which have very strong options for custom special missions specific to them. 3. Trips to town are as interesting as the trips to other worlds. More than just a list of prices, towns in Shadows of Brimstone have a huge number of special events, activities, and interactions available. No two are the same. 4. Portals to another world will randomly send you to alien spaceships, feudal Japan, or maybe even inside of an alien beast. You truly never know what you will be doing from one game to the next. Truly emergent narrative gameplay. So who is it for? Anyone that longs for AD&D style tables for days and has a longing for Cthulhu Western material, this is going to be your jam. Now, who's it not for? Anyone that wants a cohesive story, simple gameplay, or a small footprint on the table. Also, anybody that has to have it all, there's just too much and too much out of print. Shadows of Brimstone will not be for the completionist. Number 1, Too Many Bones. This won't be a surprise to anybody that watches my channel regularly. I love this game. I have loved this game for several years now. So the RPG elements within Too Many Bones are great and varied, but I'm going to hit on the top 4 for me. Number 1, the gear locks are each incredibly unique, offering multiple different viable build options, with most of them being a take on a traditional fantasy RPG class. For example, Patches fills the role of a traditional cleric, but thematically, he's a field medic, while Tantrum acts as a barbarian would, but in theme, he's just a gearlock with some anger issues. Number 2, the encounter deck provides a huge amount of variety in terms of story as well as modifications to the standard gameplay mechanics to keep things fresh. This variety is greatly enhanced when you add in expansions like 40 Days in Daylore, 40 Caves of Daylore, or 40 Waves of Daylore, particularly related to the Day 1, 2, and 3 cards, which can get a little stale if you're just working with the core product. 3. The tyrants and baddies are tough opponents depending upon the draw. Some combats can be nigh unbeatable unless you have built your gearlock in a way to accommodate certain specific keywords like hardy, break, or thick skin, all of which can spell bad news for narrow builds. 4. Multiple campaign options exist between Age of Tyranny and those included in Undertow or Unbreakable, both standalone expansions. But really, even a single session feels like a complete campaign because you start as a zero, end up as a hero, and you take down the tyrant at the end. So who is it for? If you enjoy D&D but you can't get a group together, if you find ironic and sarcastic humor enjoyable, and you don't mind chucking huge piles of dice, and if you enjoy a good challenge, Too Many Bones is going to be a great option for you. Who is it not for? If you don't like whimsical art, or you prefer very serious games, if you want something inexpensive or quick to learn or teach, Too Many Bones is going to be absolutely wrong for your table. All right, so that was a very brief look at my top 5 board games that share RPG elements. So I would love to hear about some of your thoughts on board games that you play to scratch that RPG itch. So I know that this was a very brief look at each of these, but if you have any specific questions about the gameplay or some of the options in any of these games or why I chose them as I did, feel free to hit a comment down below and I will respond as I have time. And if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.
That's all, folks.